Thinkerers, today is a special day, my friends. We are in a very special place with some very special people. We're on the Road Trip Nation bus. I know you've seen the show. I've seen the show. And we're with the CEO of Edmentum, Jamie Candy, and of course, COO of Road Trip Nation, Brian McAllister. Thank you guys so much for joining us today on Thinkering Voices. If we could talk a little bit first, right off the rip, for our viewers, the very few viewers out there that don't know Road Trip Nation, tell them a little bit about what Road Trip Nation is.
Yeah, so Road Trip Nation is a nonprofit education organization that is mission driven around capturing people's stories and asking them how they get to where they are in life and capturing their career journeys, and then sending learners on road trips to have transformational experiences. And then we capture that content and we get to share it out to the world in various ways. And so that's something we're so excited about, is the partnership with Edmentum of how we're sharing our content out through their learning community. And we've got a public television show, and we've got some in-course class curriculum that we produce as well.
You forgot the Emmys. You got to say the Emmys.
We do have a few awards here and there that we've achieved over the years. We've received 2.
That's 2 more than I have. That's a humble brag. Jamie, tell me a little bit about Edmentum and why Road Trip Nation. How did this even come about?
Yeah. So Edmentum, you may or may not know this, we are the oldest ed tech company in the country. Started in 1960.
Yes.
So we've had many evolutions. One of the things that we've been really focused on is how do we continue to engage kids in this modern world? And many years ago, I was in Mississippi, and I saw the governor of Mississippi at that time interview you guys, and you were invited in, and it was the first time that I had seen the RV and all that. And I was like, these guys are doing something pretty special. And so fast forward to now, and we have a very large catalog of online courses, and we work with middle schools and high schools for career readiness. And one of the things that we have been studying with students is this real lack of engagement, and seeing what these guys have built all these years and how you can actually incorporate real world experience engagement with people who feel like you or seem like you or somebody you look up to and want to be with in your core academics, in addition to career planning. We thought it was such a great opportunity. And so we got together and discussed the partnership, and here we are. It's really, really exciting time.
You know, as you talk about that, I was thinking about an interview I recently did with Jason Bass. And we were talking a little bit, he works for Edmentum. We were talking a little bit about this partnership, kind of pre-ISTE preview. And one of the things that came to my mind is, you know, a huge buzzword right now is CTE. Yes. You know, really giving kids experiences to jobs that they might not have privy to given locality. And we know that if a child is introduced, a very basic introduction to something, it could be the spark that ignites them in a passion path, right?
Yes.
So that was the original value add that I saw in Road Trip Nation was, and really this partnership is it's inspiration at scale, right? It's taking all of these amazing experiences that you've had and allowing for the Edmentum platform to scale it out to school districts across the country. Really, when it comes down to, you know, you've done Road Trip Nation for so long.
Yeah, 25 years.
Is this kind of the next iteration? Does this excite you, this partnership?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the model originated in these old motorhomes that we had sending students across the country. It's not the most scalable model. And so we really lean into partnerships like Edmentum to where we can, 5 million students in their community. And so for us to think through how can we have greater impact beyond motorhomes? How can we engage and just have more students participate in identifying what their interests are? And it's really about career.
Yes.
Like it's career to classroom connection, right?
Yes.
I mean, we're really just trying to engage, not just engage, and you mentioned this, it's exposure to these careers. Like if there's one thing Road Trip Nation feels like we can do is be a window of opportunity to say, look, these are real people. This isn't virtual road trip. These aren't chat bots. They're real people. And they're sharing their personal stories. And so if there's a connection there based on a student's interest aligning to an academic pathway, that to us is what's so exciting. And Edmentum brings the education side. If we can bring the experiential side, that's where we are super excited about.
Yes. And before, I know Evan's got a question, but before we even get into that, what really fascinates me is, you know, taking these experiences and quantifying that. Because I think these experiential learning trips and all of these
Yes.
people that you've talked to over time, pairing that with
Yes.
the ability for like Edmentum to really work to quantify and value those experiences must be this kind of renewed sense of all this stuff we built now
Yes.
has brand new value
Yes.
to the community. Was that something that you saw?
100%. Yes. And I'd say with all the policy changes that have happened in the last couple of years across the country, you now have 40 states that require an individual career plan. The challenge when you pass those kind of policies is what you don't want it to be is a compliance check the box. We finally have this opportunity. I've been talking about this for years. For 30 years, we have said college and career readiness, but we have actually never in K-12 worked on the career readiness. It's all been college possible, which is important. And we want kids to go to post-secondary and higher ed and all those things. But for the kid who wants to go be a welder, for the kid who wants to
gonna
be a
make
professional,
fundamentally more now.
100%.
You know what I mean?
The kid who wants to be a professional surfer, who now realizes that they actually need geometry to go surf the North Shore, which is actually one of the videos. This is quite amazing. The point is, we now have policy that's saying, yes, let's try to help kids engage early in career, understand this whole big, beautiful world that's out there, all the different things that you can do. That will allow them to persist through middle school and high school. It'll give them lots of options they otherwise wouldn't have. And so for us right now, because we work with so many learners, like I am obsessed with making sure that this isn't a compliance policy trend that we see. And it's really that we're now opening the doors for kids and giving them these experiences that really get them excited about what their future holds for them.
Let me ask both of you something. And we're walking around DC today, sweaty, tired, right? Florida. Yeah.
What you're just saying is Florida.
That's it.
It's the motto.
One of the things that I saw constantly today, I haven't seen this at other conferences, is how do we rethink assessment? And like in the hall conversations, vendors, the whole nine. In our world that we always talk about is if there was no red tape, what would happen? Right? No funding issues, community up the wazoo, kids excited, butts and seats, the whole nine. How do we assess this? I think that's the biggest thing that we try to wrap our arms around. We work with so many schools, so many state leaders as well, where Portrait of a Graduate is a new thing in some states. Some states it's been there for 40 years already. And their biggest challenge is how do I knock down that fourth wall? How do I connect my kids to industry? I spoke to a CTE director the other day. They have 10,000 kids. And the district policy and state policy is every kid needs work experience.
Yeah.
It's impossible. There's no way this school is going to activate 10,000 kids in internship or shadowing, even though if they went to parents, grandparents, community, they probably would, right? What does that look like moving into the new school year, especially with AI? How do we think about this?
We're trying to make that possible.
Tell me more about this.
So it starts in middle school with career exploration, right? So I use my son as an example. His dream is to play baseball, MLB.
Love it.
And so that's a great dream, and I hope he makes it there. But what he doesn't realize at now 16 years of age is there's like 1,000 different jobs that you could do for the rest of your life in baseball that do not include just making it to the MLB, right? That is our responsibility. And so getting to kids at the middle school level, giving them exploration, helping them see what is possible, all these different passions that they have. So you talk about assessment. We actually do an interest inventory, which is basically an assessment that helps you learn about yourself. Then it sets you on the journey of like the different, and this is where you start to get into the Road Trip Nation videos. By the time you get into high school, last fall, we acquired a company called Major Clarity. Major Clarity is a career planning and readiness platform. So it gives you the individual career plan platform. And then what it does is it actually connects local employers to the school district. So you can start doing this at scale where you're able to post internships, apprenticeships. And what we're working on now is how do you do more simulation within school systems so that they can actually get that workplace experience without having to physically leave and go out to these apprenticeship sites. So the answer is that it's possible. To scale it is very hard, but the combination of like good policy with industry reaching into these local communities and then like platforms like ours, we think we can bring this together.
Let me ask one more on top of that, even before we get to that. How do districts start? Like multiple stakeholders have to be at the table and all in, I imagine.
So number one, this cannot be, it's not just the guidance counselor's responsibility. It's not the CTE director's responsibility. It needs to be the superintendent, and the superintendent needs to work with his or her cabinet and also the community. So what we see as most powerful is when you have the school board aligned, when you bring in your local workforce, maybe the chamber, if you have a chamber and they're aligned, and then you've got the entire cabinet that is working on this versus delegating it to a department. And it's not hard to do that, right? It's just getting the right players at the table and looking at like everything we've done for the last 30 years to work on College Possible. We now do the same for career, right? Because there's definitely inequity issues in getting to college, but the system that we've developed to help kids understand the process you go through to get to a college, that's very well defined. We need to do the same now for career.
One element that we're looking at Road Trip Nation is the career conversation side, which is it's great to have these resources. For us, it's really about mobilizing the students. And so when we think about Road Trip Nation, we think about our archives. So we have thousands and thousands of videos. When students engage in that content, they're automatically getting a window to the world of work, so to speak, but it also produces social capital, which means that they see people like them in jobs that they've pursued and they define roads.
They're building
and
bridges.
they're building bridges. And students then have a sense of like self-efficacy that they can actually do something about their future.
Yes.
And once that starts to, like Road Trip Nation's never really been huge on assessments, but we've backdoored into some of these fundamental principles that's just not about checking boxes. It's really about motivation.
Yes.
And you mentioned middle school, like,
Yes.
especially with the career conversation, you know, sometimes it's like, what are you going to be? And it's like, that's such a loaded question.
Yes,
The
I agree.
reality is like, what are you
What do you
interested
love?
in? And
Yes.
like, there needs to be an element of wonder
Yes.
and exploration.
Yes.
And we feel this partnership is going to provoke that balance between, yes, rigor and planning, critical, but there needs to be wonder and enthusiasm and
Yes.
motivation to keep them on this path. We hit the road. Our first road trip was after we graduated from college. And the one bummer that we felt was that we didn't have the road trip to apply to our academic experience. Fast forward 25 years now, we're going all the way with Edmentum into younger grades. And that to me is, we're not pushing, you've got to figure out what you want to do in sixth grade. We're just saying there's so many possibilities out there. If you love art, if you
Yes.
love drawing,
Yes.
if you love sports, you don't need to be the pitcher
Yes.
at a major league, but you
Right.
you might be statistician. You might
Yes.
be,
I love that.
kinesiology and sports medicine. You might go down like the marketing route.
Yes.
You might go into promotions. I mean, we
Yes.
met people at Nike and they were not the athletes. So that, I mean, anyways, like we get super excited about human potential.
Yep.
If there's one trigger for us, it's saying, wow, how can we, and so for us, it's really just about reach and working with Edmentum, partnering with Edmentum. That's what Road Trip Nation is so excited about now.
Telling the stories.
So one more before I hand it back to Garrett. I spoke to a teacher the other day that said, instead of what do you want to be when you grow up, she said, what impact do you want to make on this? I imagine both of you have amazing stories.
Yes.
I need some stories. Like I look around this RV, there's writing literally on the walls. What are some impact stories that both of you have seen?
I can share one that it's super cool. So Decatur County, Alabama.
Yep.
They have been a partner with us for quite a number of years. They run a really cool career academy. They offer it virtual and online. Decatur was losing a lot of enrollment. Their enrollment is exploding. They have a wait list for kids trying to get back into that school system. And it's because of all the flexibility that they have built. And Decatur happens to be surrounded by advanced manufacturing, a lot of really interesting employers. And they've been very diligent in working on building pathways and points of entry into those employers. So it's helping like really feed the local economy, making sure that those kids stay in that community, which is more rural. The coolest thing, this is the impact story. You can actually go online if you Google it and you can find it. So they started, there's a lot of kids who come out of Decatur and go to like the SEC, the Big Ten, really good D1 programs. They now do, just like you do your D1 signing when you get into school, they do a career signing. And these kids are at a table.
Do you know the Power of Moments?
Yes.
By the Heath Brothers?
Yes.
That's it.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So these employers are standing behind these kids who are signing their employment agreement, and they're going in to be welders and advanced manufacturer technicians. Like it's the coolest thing you see, and they're so proud, and their families. And it's like, yes, that's what we're doing here, right? Is
It's not just the running back contract. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
got achieved, but
Yeah.
really every career,
yes,
right?
yes.
Brian, how about you? What's like, I know
Oh,
like, your
geez.
job is telling stories.
Yeah.
So
Dig into
what
the vault
impact?
on this
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, no,
So many on these walls.
we do. And I guess the challenge I have is what program am I going to kind of dip into on this one? First off, our impact report, we distribute one every year. So you can check out our impact report at roadtripnation.org. I'm going to go to the experiences where the students are with us on a road trip or they're at a conference, because sometimes like almost a road trip now is a metaphor. And yes, it's awesome to take a cross-country road trip. It's great to do one across your local state. Sometimes we just do them at conferences where we invite students to come with us. And when they sit down with leaders in different business industries, and they have this vibe of, wow, this is going to be like a LinkedIn profile where I'm going to hear about all the accolades. I'm going to hear all the reasons why I can't become this person. And then you see the playing field gets leveled real quick when a leader remembers where they were at when they were 14, where they're at when they're 15. And there's a moment there. You can call it like an aha moment, but there's a light bulb that goes off actually with both groups here. Not just the students who are like, wow, you actually came from the same neighborhood. They have the same tattoos. I mean, you see this moment where it's like, I can actually become this. And you see a leader's like, wait a minute, if you just think I am who I am today, like you didn't see all the work and where I started from. And sometimes we forget, even teachers. You could talk to a teacher and you've been a teacher your whole life, and actually it's sometimes quite the opposite. Yeah. They've had like a million different careers. And so you just have this, for us at Road Trip, we love the moment where you break away from a title and you're like, look, I just happen to have a passion for storytelling. I love sharing content. I love building experiences, and I just didn't know I could do it for a living. And then you start to realize that that's been manifested in a lot of different ways, where sometimes younger generations are just like, they just discount themselves. And look, we can all be our worst critic, right? We can be super hard, like, I can't do that. And actually, you're capable of more than you know. Sometimes you just need an example to say, you know what, I came from the same.
So true.
I came from the same area. I came from the same school. And to us at Road Trip, that's what keeps us on the road. And so whether it's a cross-country road trip, whether we've been on the road for 3 weeks or we've been on the road for 2 hours, like when you see those moments where a student leaves a conversation feeling empowered, feeling endorsed, feeling supported over a career conversation. So that to us is what we're trying to scale. It's like, wait a minute. So when you talk about assessments, it's like, how many more career conversations can we spark that will lead to an interest that would then get put into a plan? Right. And that's where Road Trip, I mean, we're kind of the why to a how. A lot of other partners and then have the rigor. Yeah. Sometimes we're just the why to spark that. And then it's like, and so I think partnership, and you mentioned it with like local workforce county boards, like workforce investment boards, like partnerships are huge. Like you got to break down the walls of a classroom. Like you got to create more, experience-based learning opportunities. Like, and I think so many of these folks are doing that through technology. We're just quick to be like, you can throw technology at it, but if it's not sincere, if it's not human, that's right. You can throw data, but when you talk career and data, sometimes students just check out. Yes. And it's like, look, it's another bot telling me what to do. Yep. But when they start to see themselves being reflected or mirrored in the leader, that to us is pretty awesome. It's pretty magical.
One of the things I was going to say is kudos to you, Jamie, because I think it's a powerful statement to say, rather than be the ones to craft the stories, find people around you that are doing that really well. Yes. And I think that is, kind of the future when it comes to how we look at learning, how we look at education, is to not think that we're everything. Yes. And there was a while where a lot of these mega companies, even in ed tech, had that mindset of like, yes, we'll build this, we'll build this, we'll build this. What ends up happening is you get 75% trash, 25% workable stuff. One of the things, I'll pivot here a little bit, Thinkering Collective and the work that we do is to empower educators to pull off their dream projects in schools. So we work across the world with educators and ask them what Evan said, which is, what if there's no red tape? What if there's no budget restrictions? And then we magnify that idea as an educator and say, yes, and. We play a game of improv with them. Yes, and. How big is this going to get? And we kind of break down the barriers of fear, because fear is this kind of thought that we can predict the future. It's the audacity that we can predict the future. And we try to knock that down the best we possibly can. Now, in this partnership between Edmentum and Road Trip Nation, what is the dream project? Are we doing it, or is there another level to it?
Well, I always like to think there's more. So we're just getting started. So this first this coming academic year, is the first full year where the road trip videos will be in all of our core courses and in our career and our CTE courses. So we want to learn from that. So to your point, like, one thing that I've learned in the 20 plus years that I've been doing this is like literally never assume that you know it all. Like you've got to surround yourself with who are, people who are much smarter
Why
with
she
you.
has her title, guys.
Yeah. Well, and I think, we've studied these guys for so long and we've studied what our students need. And a lot of the students that we serve, we talked about, it's between 5 to 6 million every year here in the US. And the vast majority of those students need a little bit different way to learn. They need to be engaged a little bit differently than a lot of the kids who find success in a traditional classroom. And so we're really curious, and so this is where it gets into like what more we can do, is I get excited that every kid we serve is now going to have a chance to dream about their future, think about impact, get super engaged with this. But what I get most excited about is the kids who struggle the most in school. What is it going to do for them? And you guys have done so many videos that are also about the kids who maybe can't or don't want to be a lawyer or a doctor. It's all these cool, interesting walks of life. And to expose that to kids who are otherwise not going to get that exposure, that's the scale you're talking about. For kids who are feeling like they're on the last, they can't make it through school. They're thinking about dropping out. They don't know what to do. I'm most excited about how we learn from them. And what we learn is going to be really relevant for them. And then how we amplify that moving forward. Like that to me is like the next phase of what we're going to do. And so I'm excited about this upcoming academic year.
What about you, Brian?
So for me, it's, I think there's a balance between consuming content and sitting back and being passive about it and being active and engaging. One of the things that we have, an element that Road Trip Nation has in beta right now in pilot is a virtual road trip experience
Super
that we
cool.
would love to roll out with Momentum.
On the bus?
Which is, it's all digital. It's a digital based road trip. So now we can put, in our mind, we envision putting millions of students on virtual road trip experiences where they're not just consuming content, but they're actually building out their
Super
own
cool.
road trips.
Creators.
And and that's what we feel we
Super
could
cool.
do in the years to come. Is so you're not just, look, access to content is awesome. And but phase 2 would be, let's mobilize. So in one of our books that we wrote, A Road Trip, we broke it down to let go, define, and become. Let go of the noise that just weighs on you. Define who you are. Think about your identity. Think about your interests, and then become. That last chapter of you've got to put it to action. You've got to put one foot in front of the other. How can we put some momentum and wind in those sails? It's one thing for us to just say, oh, that's what we do, but it's another to come alongside with Momentum and to bring that into a community of 5 to 6 million students and at all different layers. Like, I mean, we've done, kind of at-risk youth road trips. We've done, underrepresented youth road trips. We've done, so like, we feel there's something in there for everybody.
Yeah.
But when we start to think through that progression of like a virtual road trip, a digital experience that models something that we've been doing for years, but you don't have to go on a road trip, that excites us.
So I got to ask both of you this, and Garrett and I talk about this all the time too, of why did we get into this? Right? Like, what was the spark? Both of you spoke about the spark. Garrett's spark was his report card hanging on his wall these days, what, 1.8?
I graduated high school I was that kid you were talking about. I was the drummer that didn't understand. I wanted to be a rock star. So when the teacher was talking to me, I was like, yeah. No, I'm going to be on the road. And ended up doing that, right? Like ended up fulfilling that dream to a level that I was at least proud of. But what I would say is, again, my why was because I struggled so much in school. Like Evan said, graduated high school with a 1.8. I have that report card framed in my office, and it's a reminder to me that that's no reflection of who I am and how I learn. And it really sets the tone. Talk about dropping it down with really anybody I'm talking with, to put it at that level. We tend to get this kind of ego, pride. We want to, really project and posture around folks, when I think kids sniff that out far quicker than adults do, and you lose that audience. You lose them as an audience very quickly when it comes to that. So yeah, I'm super curious what got you, Brian, into building Road Trip Nation as like a this massive entity, and then for you, how you got into Edmentum, education, all of that.
Brian?
So for me, it's super simple, very similar. We were at a 4-year school, And myself and two buddies just didn't identify with becoming lawyers, doctors, or accountants.
Love it.
We didn't know what we wanted to do with our lives. So instead of taking internships, we bought this old motorhome and we cold called 85 people that we thought were doing cool things. And we asked them, what advice do you have for a couple lost college kids? Was there ever a time in your life that you were lost or displaced? And will you share that with us?
And you
So
documented.
that was our first road trip. So what led us to the road for me personally was a frustration of not knowing what I wanted to do with my life. I didn't have, my parents are super supportive. They're awesome. They just weren't good with careers.
Yeah.
Sure.
So there's no guidance there. And,
Ditto.
and what I heard from you is what Mike told me. And I said, man, Mike, who was a fellow road tripper, I was like, I just wasn't smart. I just wasn't good at school. He goes, no, you didn't apply yourself because you didn't have that one moment where things connected.
That's right.
And ever since then, I was like, it's not that the student's different. It's just they haven't connected those dots yet. And so I would go back to say, you just didn't apply yourself, because if you would applied yourself the way you are now, you may have been a 4.3. So to me, I just didn't find school to be a very rewarding experience. And I just felt like even all the way through, it just wasn't for me.
That's right.
And so that's what led us to hit the
I
road.
literally
That's what
have
led us to hit the road.
I have a podcast that I host on our Thinkery network called What is Smart? And
Yeah.
so I talk with some of the
love that.
leading educators
That's good.
and thought leaders across the world on that question.
I think it's a great one.
And it's a different answer
Yes.
every
Yes.
single and I'm talking Harvard Project Zero, I'm talking, Boston College, I'm talking all these amazing thinkers, all of them come to the same understanding that smart is subjective,
Yes.
right? So who cares if you're smart or not?
Yeah.
One of our token questions is define success. Because you can sit in a room with a CEO or with a justice of the Supreme Court and you'll get a different answer. And you ask college students and sometimes it's the bling and sometimes it's this, or you talk to high school students and it's like, it's all the define success. And you'll be shocked how many different ways it is defined. And,
It's all over the walls.
It's all over the walls. It's all through our
That's right.
Jamie, how about you?
Yeah, Jamie, go for it.
Real quick to your point
yeah.
on what does define success. I mean, you were documenting what 25 years ago,
Yeah.
pre-YouTube,
Yo, yeah.
pre-Instagram,
Yeah.
right? And
Super
just literally
Yeah.
kept that storytelling. What we find is kids today have it so difficult. Right, I flip on Instagram, I'm surrounded by perfect, right? The highlight reel, as we like to say, of this is what success looks like. And as we progress in life, depending on what platform or community, so to both your points, that exposure is everything.
Yep.
And how do we see each other?
That's
in
right.
that? So yeah, huge.
That's right.
Jimmy.
So I was a kid with special needs. I had severe auditory and speech issues. This was pre-ed tech, and I had great specialists who figured out what was wrong with me. So I was on an IEP until the end of third grade, individual education plan, and I was in special ed. And I had a specialist, her name was Mrs. Rubright, and she figured out some of my challenges. And over the course of a year, she figured out how to get me reading on grade level. And obviously that stuck with me. But I was always a kid who learned very differently. I struggled with standardized testing. I struggled in a traditional classroom environment.
Wow.
So I came out of high school wanting to be a teacher because I wanted to work with kids like me. And I went to school. I went to college to be a teacher. I put myself through college as a preschool assistant teacher. I started student teaching, and what I realized was, so going back to all of our points, what I was actually passionate about is what happens to classrooms. And so what I actually started thinking is, I want to go to law school and I want to work on education policy. Long story short, I can't afford it. My dad was a boiler operator in a hospital. My mom ran a hair salon. Amazing people, which is why I'm now really passionate about the trades and all these different CTEs, because that's how I grew up. And like your parents, my parents were like, I don't know, just go get a job. And so I ended up taking a detour through finance. I heard about this thing called ed tech. I ended up meeting Plato Learning, which is who we are, and fell in love with it and was like, this is the thing. Like if I would have had the products that we build in kindergarten, first grade, like it wouldn't have taken my teachers 4 years to figure out how to help me. We could have done it in 4 months. And so that's been my life's passion ever since. And so I joined the company for the first time here. I'm a boomerang. So I was started in 2005, left for a little while to go run another education company. And I've been back as CEO for 9 years. And it's my life's passion. I love what we do.
I would have never
Yeah.
known. It's
Yeah.
like
You'll
this is
hear
what
it. You'll hear it come out sometimes. You'll hear me stutter and stuff like that. So it's like you spend a lifetime, right, working on it.
Well, it's just so interesting that we're talking about smart, right? And all of us sitting here had very different experiences in school, and very few of them were positive. So it's proving what we're saying, which is at the end, we're telling kids to, learn in this way. And really what it is memorize, regurgitate, move on.
Yes.
Tick the box, tick the box, tick the box. We're actually stifling the stuff that will allow kids to be successful in the future. It's the real inspirational stuff, like the storytelling that you do, that sits with, the best part I think about this partnership, in my opinion, is you are delivering content, which is how kids and learners consume information nowadays. So you're putting it in places that they're consuming naturally. And what we found at Thinkering is the only way that we're going to push this needle forward, we have to make people feel. We have to make people feel.
Especially today.
And the only way that we found to do that is through storytelling. And to really, we go to these conferences and people want us to say these things and do these things. The real lens is when we get down and for lack of a better term, get down and dirty on the, who you guys are, who these people are, who Brian is, who Janie is, because that ultimately, let's say a kiddo catches our content on YouTube and hears your story and had a stutter growing up. You just, and you know this, you just inspired that kid. And that could literally change that kid's life.
Go buy a van with 4 buddies at the coast.
It's the same thing.
So you mentioned that emotional connection. Like it's like I just had it listening to Jamie's story because my youngest daughter has an IEP, and we're just working through that. And through the experiences that I've had on the road, I know it's just a matter of time to dialing it in. But to hear where you were, and you were behind level with grading, with reading
way
level,
behind.
and she is too. And I know she's struggling. And anyways, it's just powerful to know that through your story to her, she'll be like, oh, wow, you mean I can go to law school?
Yes.
You
100%.
absolutely can. So to your point, you do have to break down that, especially when it comes to careers, and especially when it comes to education. People need to know, like, where am I in this? And if we can deliver it through through content,
That's it.
but it's attached to rigor, it's attached to a program and to a process, to a facilitated experience in the classroom. So I think the mutual excitement that we have is just breaking down the walls of some of these classrooms to say, look, it's a big world out there. There's a lot of different ways to navigate it. And let's get excited about it. Almost like a growth mindset versus I'm just not good at this. And my grades just are keep validating that I'm not good at this. Was anybody else not good at this too? So that to me is where this partnership is really going to be magical.
Great.
Kudos to both of you.
I was just going to say, I don't really know if we have much else. That was a beautiful way to wrap it up. And the only thing that I will say is, to you, Jamie, in saying that story in vulnerability, and I think that's really special. I think the other lesson that you might not know that you're teaching learners out there, even if they're watching this or have that, is humility. And I think humility comes from experiences like you had.
100%.
It doesn't come from getting handed everything in your life. It comes from the struggle. And for me, there's something really special about that back pocket struggle.
So true.
That you pull out when you're with people that you can be vulnerable with for the right reasons, and shows that your motivation in this industry is true, and it's again for the right reasons. So from Thinkering Voices, thank you guys so much for joining us.
Having us.
Thanks for talking through this wonderful bus, Brian. And
So
Brian,
fun.
if they want to watch any Road Trip Nation, is it all Edmentum?
No, you got a website.
They go to our website, or they can find it through Edmentum in the district.
But they should check out the website. It is amazing. Like the access.
Roadtripnation.org. We'll put it up and we'll link it down in the comments.